I didn't believe he was real. I didn't believe he was mine. The photo in the plastic frame, hastily printed and put on my bedside table, I thought my sister had gotten it off the internet. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't believe I'd ever really been pregnant at all. The giant bandage on my still swollen belly was just another remnant from yet another procedure in a long string of just another procedure in my 7 years of dealing with kidney failure. I thought I'd been in the hospital in Florida for several weeks. In reality, it had only been 3 days since my face and hand had gone numb while sitting at my desk, and I was in Walnut Creek, only a couple of blocks away from my office. A stroke, they told me. The diagnosis, sudden and severe preeclampsia. I was 28 weeks pregnant. I missed the first 3 days of my son's life. They're just gone. Lost in a cloud of magnesium sulfate, Ativan, and decreasing kidney function, I didn't know that I was a mother for days. "This is your son," my sister said, holding the photo close to my face as I lay in bed. "Max needs you. He needs you to get better." Unable to process this reality, I turned my back on her and went to sleep. As I slowly came around and as the medication cleared my body, I started to remember. I had been pregnant. It wasn't a dream. And most importantly, I realized that the tiny person surrounded by tubes and wires, all 2 pounds, 4.8 ounces of him, was indeed mine. The little boy that my husband and I had made and dreamed about, named, and loved from the day that we found out I was pregnant was now fighting for his life in a giant plastic box, relying on machines and doctors to help him win this battle for his life. These first days were his hardest days, and I had failed him. My body had failed him. My body, made to do this, to carry this child, had been unable to do just that. It's this incredible thing that women have done for millennia, and my own body had lost its fight to keep my baby safe inside me. My very own self, which had already come through so much, CT scans and plasmapheresis, med infusions and dialysis, a parathyroidectomy and a kidney transplant, was not able to carry my baby to term. Forget the classic mother-to-be debate about C-section or natural or epidurals or not, breast or formula-fed. None of these things had been left up to debate. We were too busy fighting for our lives. The first few days were the hardest. Being in the NICU, visiting your baby, isn't like they show it on private practice. Your inclination upon reaching into that plastic box is to caress and comfort your child, but no, because even the slightest movement is painful to their tiny nerve endings. There's no fat there to cushion the overstimulation. I could merely rest my hand on his back, covering him from his diaper to the nape of his neck. That was the extent of my parenting for the first week of his life. For a few minutes at a time, we'd be able to raise the blanket that shielded him from the brightness of the NICU and rest our hands on him. And that was it. Watching him breathe, counting how often his chest rose and fell, trying to block out the beeps and buzzers and ringing phones, and just be with our baby. We didn't get to hold him until he was 7 days old. The nurse carefully arranged his tubes and wires and snugged the tiniest little hat on his head and placed him carefully on my chest. Instantly, his heart rate steadied, and as I felt his breathing on me, the rise and fall of his body against mine, I knew I was a mother, and nothing would ever be the same. We spent 91 days in the NICU. For the first 3 months, Max's entire world was a 1,500 square foot room, station number 17, right next to the doors of the operating room where his life had started. Front row parking, the nurses called it. Life in the NICU is a dance. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Good labs and good feedings one day, bad labs the next. While Max rode his roller coaster of life, so did we. There were days that I couldn't bear to look at him. Not wanting to miss a visit, I would sit with my back to his isolette. I had so much guilt over letting him down, watching him struggle, the IVs and the bandages and the oxygen, I was his mother. I had brought him into this world, and now I could do nothing but watch. I remember sitting in the NICU one afternoon, watching the minutes tick by on the clock, being acutely aware that one day this would be over, that I knew it would be a distant memory someday, but still, each 24 hours was an eternity, and each night a lifetime. I could get through this. Max could get through this. We could get through this. And then we suddenly turned a corner, and doctors started saying things like, when he's at home, or the nurse who said, so if you guys are gone when I get back from vacation? And then there was that day. I rang the NICU. I'm here to see Max Porter, please. And the door buzzed to let me in. I scrubbed my hands at the stainless sink. That part is just like private practice. And I walked into the familiar nursery, nodding to the fellow parents, greeting the nurses, stepping around crash carts and rocking chairs. I headed back towards Max's isolette, just like I had done for the previous 80-something days. But something was different. The isolette was empty. Confused, I turned around and came face to face with Sherry, one of Max's nurses. And the grin on her face was outshone only by my beautiful boy cradled happily in her arms. No tubes, no wires, no IVs, just Max. Mr. Naked Face, I called him. I had never seen him like this, ever. I gathered my baby into my arms, and I just reveled in him. His skin was still red and raw from the adhesive, but there he was, breathing on his own, looking at me with all of his fingers wrapped around one of mine. It wasn't until that moment, for the first time, that the joy outweighed the fear, that I dared to let the happiness take over and shove the terror out. In that moment, I knew just how much my own mom loves me. And in that moment, I knew that I was a mother and nothing would ever be the same. He's 5 now, and perfect. I'm serious, I am not exaggerating, he is perfect. He sings and tells jokes, and he loves farts and Star Wars. If not for the constellation of tiny scars on his arms and his spring, not summer birthday, you would never guess the fight that this boy had won, that we had won, just to get here. And here is pretty freaking great.